Welcome to Debate Combats, where bold ideas test their limits under bright lights and sharper minds. Tonight's motion asks whether NATO countries should adopt a recurring Conflict Solidarity Levy, a time-limited tax earmarked to fund alliance commitments in active conflict zones like Ukraine, instead of relying on ad hoc budgets. In plain terms, should we raise a predictable pot of money on a schedule, or keep passing the hat every time a crisis spikes? Our teams are set, with the women arguing for the levy and the men arguing against it. The question touches money, security, trust, and fairness, and yes, it will get spicy quickly. Let us keep it civil, clear, and courageous. Pro team, your opening case, please.
Thank you, and let us start simple. Because soldiers and civilians do not run on vibes, they run on reliable funding.
When budgets lurch from emergency vote to emergency vote, supply chain stall, training pauses, and deterrence frays at the edges.
A recurring levy is like a metronome for defense, steady enough that planners can buy protective gear and air defenses before the next barrage lands.
Predictability lowers costs because vendors bid tighter when payments are scheduled, which means the same dollar buys more armor, more drones, and more field hospitals.
Earmarking the tax builds trust, as taxpayers can track pounds and dollars straight to helmets, generators, and demining kits.
Transparency audits can publish quarterly dashboards that show units supplied, days trained, and lives saved. And sunlight is the best disinfectant for waste.
A time limit prevents mission creep, so the levy sunsets, unless voters and lawmakers renew it with clear metrics.
That sunset is a fuse on government habits, forcing results now rather than someday, which is how accountability should feel.
Ad hoc budgets often arrive late, so frontline partners ration ammo and postpone evacuations, and late money is a cruel joke.
With a levy, logistics officers can sign year-long contracts for fuel and medical supplies, and that saves both cash and lives.
Fair burden sharing also matters because allies quarrel less when everyone contributes at a predictable rate aligned with income.
We can design progressive credits to shield low-income households, while luxury transactions carry a bit more of the load.
The levy also signals resolve to aggressors who read budgets like weather, and a clear forecast of funding is a storm warning they cannot ignore.
Markets like stability. Investors hate cliffhangers, and a rule-based levy keeps both generals and grocers sleeping better.
In short, the levy makes support steady, visible, fair, and fast, which is exactly what real people in real danger need.
Thank you, Pro. And now the floor moves to the con team for their opening case.
Nice pitch, but a new tax is a promise with a monthly bill, and government promises love to overstay their welcome.
History shows that temporary taxes become the couch surfers of public finance, always finding a reason to stay one more season.
Earmarks sound clean, yet money is fungible, so core budgets quietly grow, while the levy pretends to be the hero.
Audits arrive after the party, not during it, and by the time the report slams the table, the cash has long been spent.
If predictability is the goal, we should reprioritize existing defense lines and cut weak projects, not tap families again.
Households fight their own battles with rent and groceries, and they cannot intercept inflation with a Patriot battery.
Ad hoc votes are not chaos, they are democratic breaks that force lawmakers to justify each tranche in the open.
A standing levy dulls debate, and dull debates dull oversight, which is how boondoggles slip through the gap.
Deterrence comes from capability and credibility, not from a tax label, and allies can coordinate multi-year procurement without a new levy.
Bulk purchasing, joint maintenance hubs, and shared training calendars deliver the same stability with zero fresh taxes.
Fairness cuts both ways, because a flat levy nicks the young and the poor the hardest, while wealthy donors clap from private boxes.
Credits and exemptions are pretty, but they breed loopholes, and loopholes breed lobbyists, and lobbyists breed costs.
Sunsets are romantic on postcards, yet extensions pass at midnight when anxiety is high, so the sun rises on the same tax again.
If you truly want speed, authorize contingency funds with strict caps and automatic hearings, so urgency meets scrutiny on day one.
Security is vital, but trust is fragile, and trust breaks fastest when leaders say tax first and tidy up later.
Keep the purse tight, Keep the debates live and keep the power to say no before the direct debit hits the kitchen table.
Pro Team, the floor is yours for a targeted push.
Let us cut through the fog, because when support drips in late, medics triage by candlelight and commanders gamble with empty fuel tanks.
Con Team, answer that point directly.
Emergency appropriations are not chaos. They are accountability on demand, and they force leaders to explain every shipment and justify every cent.
Con Team, you may advance your own strike.
A levy with a friendly sunset is a wolf in a dim suit, because once payroll systems and agencies adapt, that sunset becomes a screensaver nobody clicks.
Back to Pro for a firm reply.
A sunset with hard metrics is not a screensaver. It is a countdown clock with sirens, and renewal only happens if outcomes beat the scorecard in daylight.
Con Team, prepare a two-voice offense, leader and support.
If predictability is your flag, then hoist it on better planning, not new taxes that skim households who already stretch rent like elastic.
Data backs this path, because multi-year procurement and joint maintenance hubs cut cost variance without touching take-home pay, and the savings are real and bankable.
Order in the arena. Pro Team, run your two-voice counter.
Predictability without money is a map without roads, and a small time-bound levy fills the potholes so convoys actually move.
Receipts will speak, because public dashboards can show units delivered, training days funded, and survival rates improved, which turns trust from a slogan into a ledger.
Con Team, mount a structured defense with an answer and a provocateur.
Answer first. The ledger you promise is still fed by fungible streams, so core budgets swell while the earmark takes the bow.
And here is a question with teeth. If dashboards are your shield, will you commit to canceling pet projects the moment waste appears? Or will the show go on because the graph looks tidy?
Pro Team, present a defense with an answer and a pointer to weakness.
Answering clearly, the levy would be locked to line items that pass independent verification, and any slippage would trigger automatic clawbacks and procurement freezes.
Your weak seam is oversight by nostalgia, because relying on episodic votes invites midnight horse trading and delay, which translates into empty depots and broken promises.
Judges, we need a crisp midpoint readout.
At this moment, I lean pro for the clarity of earmarked dashboards, while I fault con for sounding confident about fungibility without offering a transparent audit plan. And I urge both to tighten definitions so the public can follow the money without a decoder ring.
Right now I tilt con, because kitchen table strain is not a metaphor where I live, while I see pro's strength in promising progressive credits. And I encourage both teams to center real households alongside real soldiers.
For the time being, I side with pro on deterrence signaling through guaranteed funding streams, while I see a con strength in warning against fiscal inertia, and I invite each side to offer one binding safeguard that would survive a bad year.
Round 2 begins, and I expect fresh angles. Con Team, take the initiative.
If stability is the anthem, index existing defense budgets to threat levels using a rules-based trigger, because that delivers predictability without stamping a new tax on every receipt.
Pro Team, give a clean defense.
Rules without revenue are umbrellas with missing fabric, because when a spike hits, the trigger lifts but the wallet stays flat, and frontline partners still wait.
Pro Team, fire a solo volley.
When you pre-fund logistics, medevac hours and air defense uptime rise together, and that tandem is the difference between a headline and a homecoming.
Con Team, stabilize with a single speaker defense.
You can front-load logistics by reprioritizing within existing ceilings, and we should start with canceling low-value vanity programs before collecting a single new dollar.
Pro Team, assemble a leader and a supporter for a sharp two-piece.
Leadership first, the levy is a seatbelt, unglamorous but life-saving, and it clicks in before the crash rather than after the siren.
Supporting with specifics, independent procurement boards can publish supplier scorecards, on-time delivery rates, and defect returns, which reward reliable vendors and starve grifters.
Con Team, your two-piece counterstrike, leader and support.
Let us flip the metaphor, because a seatbelt that never unfastens becomes a straitjacket, especially when the tax code does the buckling.
Supporting with structure, sunset clauses require political courage rare in peacetime, and every extension vote happens under duress, which means the baseline ratchets upward almost by design.
Order restored. Pro team, give a two-voice defense with an answer and a sharp counter-question.
Here is the answer. The levy can be hard-bound to mission criteria with automatic wind-down when ceasefire benchmarks hold for a fixed term, and oversight can be shared across allies to spread integrity.
And my question back to you. If your plan depends on politicians discovering sudden discipline, why has that discipline not already scrapped the zombie projects you keep warning us about?
Con team, close this sequence with a disciplined two-voice defense.
Answering directly, discipline improves when budgets do not have new escape hatches, and trimming waste is a continuous craft, not a miracle moment.
Pointing to a soft spot, your levy still creates administrative layers that consume time and talent that could be aimed at rapid joint training and interoperable maintenance instead.
We return to the pro lane for a clean pass.
You warn about layers, yet the thickest layer is uncertainty, because factories cannot tool up on applause. They need schedules and deposits.
Con side, raise a shield.
The surest schedule is a printed calendar of existing funds disciplined by caps and audits, while new taxes breed committees that spend minutes writing memos and years chasing relevance.
Con side, press an additional edge.
If the goal is fairness, set a contribution floor by GDP share within the alliance and penalize free riding, because that hits the target without tapping grocery money.
Pro team, receive and respond with focus.
Penalties are elegant on paper, but without dedicated cash flow, they turn into paperwork fines that aggressors ignore and quartermasters cannot spend.
Con team, answer with a single voice.
Quartermasters can spend stability too, and joint stockpiles with rolling replenishment agreements deliver that stability without printing a new line on every payslip.
Pro team, escalate with precision.
Rolling agreements still demand a funding stream, and the levy is the stream you can trace, test, and turn off when the mission is achieved.
Con team, stabilize with one more measured response.
Traceable does not equal optimal, and your plan risks crowding out investments in cyber resilience and critical infrastructure that never get headline urgency but decide tomorrow's safety.
Pro team, leader and supporter, make your numbers sing.
Leader voice here, earmarked funds reduce vendor risk premiums, which stretches each dollar further and pulls delivery timetables forward.
Support follows, tie a small slice to innovation grants for cheaper counter-drone tech, and you fund victory conditions rather than photo ops.
Con team, leader and supporter, keep the tempo but change the tune.
Leader stance now, dedicated taxes are tempting because they feel purposeful, yet they anchor policy to a single tool when a toolbox is required.
Support stance now, mix contingency funds, strict caps and automatic hearings, and you get speed with sunlight and exactly 0 new taxes.
Pro team, two-voice defense with an answer and a probing challenge.
Answering cleanly, contingency funds fail when fear stalls votes, and that stall is measured in lost sorties and delayed evacuations.
Here is the probe. If 0 new taxes is a creed, will you pledge to cut low-value projects this quarter to free the equivalent cash? And will you publish the list before the next convoy departs?
Con team, two-voice defense with a reply and a pointer at a seam.
Replying, yes to cuts with criteria set by cost per effect delivered, and yes to publishing the list with plain language notes.
The seam is your reliance on dashboards that can be gamed, because warm numbers and cool charts still mask cold waste when categories are sliced just right.
Pro team, one voice, cut to the core.
Dashboards do not save lives, but they do protect the savings that buy the gear that does, and that causal chain is why earmarking matters.
Con team, one voice, press the ethics.
Ethics demand that we avoid normalizing wartime taxation in peacetime minds, because habits built in fear rarely step aside when calm returns.
Pro team, one voice, answer the ethics with scope.
Scope and time limits are the ethics here, because a levy designed to end teaches governments to stop, and design can be law, not vibes.
Con team, one voice, return to households.
Households cannot hedge their groceries with futures, so every new line on a payslip echoes louder than it looks on a macro chart.
Pro team, leader and supporter, keep it human and measurable.
Leader voice again. If a levy buys stable power for field hospitals through winter, then it buys the minutes that surgeons need to keep families whole.
Support Voice Again. Show the receipts quarterly with independent auditors who can speak in plain English and plain math to the public that pays.
Con team, leader and supporter, drive home your alternative.
Leader closing this segment, codify a rapid reprioritization protocol that moves funds within days from low-yield programs to urgent lines when conflict indicators spike.
Support closing this segment, pair the protocol with a free rider surcharge within the alliance, and enforce it through procurement access rather than new taxes at home.
Pro team, final 2 voice defense before we rotate.
Answering, a surcharge without domestic funding still asks quartermasters to conjure gear from goodwill, which is not a supply chain.
Pointing to weakness, your rapid protocol needs votes during panic, and panic is where good ideas limp and great ideas die without fuel.
Con team, take a breath and offer a concise shield.
Shield raised. Let us invest in long-life assets like rail capacity and cyber resilience that pay defense dividends every year without minting a new tax habit.
Pro team, a concise strike to close the loop.
Strike delivered. Rails and routers still need an annual heart, and a small, transparent levy is a pulse you can count and a pulse you can stop when the patient stands.
We move to brief reflections before the next exchange.
I still lean pro for credible deterrence through scheduled capacity, while I urge them to hard-code the off switch, and I challenge Con to publish the cut list they keep promising.
My compass stays near Con because of household strain, while I applaud Pro for building protections for low-income payers, and I ask both to define fairness not as a feeling but as a formula.
I remain on the fence with a tilt to pro, contingent on enforceable sunsets and measurable outcomes, and I advise Con to show how their trigger rules avoid paralysis under pressure.
Con team, you have the first word in this fresh thread.
Triggers can be automatic and apolitical, and when they fire, funds shift inside existing envelopes within 48 hours, which beats inventing a tax and inventing its bureaucracy.
Pro team, your shield.
Automatic shifts move money around the room, but a levy brings new chairs, and sometimes the room is simply too small for the guests already inside.
Pro team, your solo jab.
Signal matters because adversaries read balance sheets like weather maps, and a visible levy is a storm warning they cannot shrug off.
Con team, your solo parry.
Signals can come from signed joint drills and interoperable logistics too, and those do not require tapping the same families again.
Pro team, 2 voices to synthesize money and morality.
Leader first, paying on time is a moral choice because late money costs real lives, and a levy is a promise kept on schedule.
Support next. Protect the vulnerable with rebates, cap the rate, and sunset the whole law, and you get the benefits without the nightmare you fear.
Con team, 2 voices to reframe speed and scrutiny.
Leader stance, speed without friction breeds mistakes. And the ad hoc vote is a constitutional break, not a bureaucratic pothole.
Support stance. Institute standing emergency hearings that auto-convene within 72 hours. And you restore speed while preserving the right to say no.
Pro team, 2 voices with crisp replies.
Answering, hearings are fine theatre, but factories do not retool on applause, they retool on deposits that arrive like clockwork.
Countering, transparency plus timing beats theatre plus hope, and the levy is the only tool on this table that guarantees both.
Con team, 2 voices with measured defense.
Replying, guarantees become dependencies, and dependencies dull innovation in procurement.
Pointing out, you risk anchoring policy to a tax that outlives the crisis, while smarter logistics would outlive the tax with better returns.
We have time for one more exchange, pro then con.
Here is the simple truth. People under fire cannot spend your good intentions, but they can spend earmarked funds that arrive before the next siren.
And here is the sober reminder: people at home cannot budget with your noble metaphors, but they must budget with every deduction that leaves the payslip lighter.
Before we close the book, are there any fresh angles, unanswered worries, or final data points that must see daylight?
Yes, because without a recurring levy, procurement officers still juggle IOUs while winter bites and diesel thins.
And yes, from us, because with your levy, households juggle thinner wallets while ministries learn to love autopilot.
Autopilot is not our model, because independent audits, public dashboards, and a hard sunset mean hands on the wheel at all times.
Public dashboards are lovely posters, but posters do not pay the rent when the levy shows up on a payslip.
Rent is exactly why we cap the rate, protect low-income brackets, and focus every cent on gear that keeps families from getting that midnight knock.
Caps are temporary tattoos, and when fear returns, the ink spreads until the whole arm reads tax.
Free debate begins, pro then con, keep it razor sharp and within the lines.
Predictable funding denies aggressors their favorite weapon, which is the gap between our speeches and our shipments.
Predictable funding also denies citizens their favorite right, which is to demand a vote before another deduction appears.
Votes remain intact, because the law that creates the levy also creates the off switch, and the off switch clicks when benchmarks hold.
Benchmarks are measured by the same executives who want the levy to survive, which means the referee is wearing the home jersey.
That is why the referee is multinational and independent, with public scorecards that turn spin into arithmetic.
Arithmetic without restraint still adds up to more bills, and there is nothing independent about a tax office that never met a levy it disliked.
Independence is not a slogan in our plan, because auditors are outside the chain of command and publish findings that anyone with a search bar can read.
And yet your own logic admits the core budget swells while the earmark takes credit, which makes the whole exercise an accounting costume party.
Costume parties do not trigger clawbacks, but our design does. And clawbacks put money back where it belongs when waste appears.
Clawbacks arrive years later, and people pay today, which is why we move money first from low-yield programs before we ever tap a new stream.
You promise to cut ghosts, but those same ghosts survive every season, while a small, sunset levy buys helmets that do not wait for political courage.
Political courage is not a ghost, it is a duty, and duties should not be outsourced to a standing tax.
A standing tax is not our pitch, a standing schedule is, because factories need calendars, not pep talks.
Factories also need energy, chips, and ports, which your levy risks crowding out by soaking oxygen from long-horizon investments.
Our proposal can reserve a slice for cyber and infrastructure tied to the same conflict metrics, so resilience grows with readiness.
Slices and metrics are just new words for more government in the kitchen, and pretty soon there is no room left for the family at the table.
Families fit when the table is sturdy, and a transparent, time-bound levy is carpentry, not clutter.
Carpentry is not free, and the sawdust falls on the same people who never got a say in the blueprints.
They do get a say, because renewal requires a fresh vote, and no vote means no levy, which is the cleanest door out.
We keep alternating, con then pro, strike quick and argue clean.
Your plan normalizes emergency footing in a way that will feel normal long after the sirens fade.
Our plan refuses to feel normal by sunsetting on schedule and demanding measurable calm before any renewal can pass.
You call it calm, but incentives tilt toward extending, because nobody wants to be the lawmaker blamed for the 1 month the money stops.
That fear exists today under ad hoc budgets, and the levy replaces panic votes with sober, dated checkpoints under bright lights.
Bright lights do not warm a cold house, and the levy chills the house before the lights even turn on.
A cold house is exactly what we avoid by offsetting low-income payers and shifting a larger share to luxury transactions that can carry it.
Last burst of free exchange, keep it policy tight and people focused.
If fairness is your banner, adopt an alliance contribution floor tied to GDP and penalties tied to procurement access, and you fix free riding without a new bill at home.
Without a domestic stream, penalties are paper handcuffs and paper does not lift stretchers.
Stretchers move when logistics are smart, not when tax code is shiny.
Logistics are only smart when money moves like clockwork, and time is all a levy buys on purpose.
Order, we pivot to closing work. Pro team, deliver your final case with 2 voices, one to sort the facts and one to address the bench.
Here are the facts in a straight line. Ad hoc votes arrive late. Late money breaks supply chains. Broken chains raise costs. And rising costs mean fewer helmets, fewer generators, and fewer medevac hours when they matter most.
To the judges, we offer a compact built on measurable outcomes, transparent dashboards, protections for low-income households, a firm cap, and a hard sunset that forces renewal only if peace fails to hold, which means we buy predictability without buying forever.
Con team, your final case in 2 voices, one to sort the facts and one to speak to the bench.
Here are our facts. Temporary taxes tend to linger, earmarks shift labels while cores swell, households feel deductions more than headlines, and real predictability comes from prioritizing within existing budgets with triggers, caps, and standing hearings.
To the judges, we offer a plan that keeps speed and scrutiny together, that funds joint stockpiles and interoperable maintenance first, and that defends both the frontline and the kitchen table without teaching the tax code to love a new habit.
Judges, give us your verdicts with 1 sentence of praise for both and the reason you vote as you do.
I vote for the pro team because they paired moral urgency with enforceable mechanics that I can audit on a calendar, and I praise the con team for a rigorous alternative that kept civilian strain at the center while demanding discipline from leaders.
I vote for the con team because the burden on ordinary families remained too heavy in the pro design, and I praise the pro team for building guardrails that many ministries would do well to copy even without a levy.
I vote for the pro team because the combination of sunset caps, independent audits, and outcome benchmarks offers credible deterrence without normalizing permanence, and I praise the con team for insisting on logistics intelligence and for exposing the dangers of fiscal inertia.
By a 2-to-1 decision, tonight's winner is the pro team. Congratulations to the pro team for a case that was both principled and programmable.
Thank you for the vote and the pushback, because smart critique helped us harden the off switch and sharpen the promises.
We accept with humility and with a promise to keep the numbers human, since budgets only matter when they protect real lives.
We salute the winners, and we stand by our warning that habits born in fear must be retired in peace.
Losing tonight still matters if it tightens tomorrow's safeguards, because the kitchen table is a frontline too.
Immense thanks to both teams for fierce but focused argument and to our judges for clarity with courage. If you stayed with us to the end, we appreciate you more than you know. Please hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you stand and why. If you can, scan the QR code at the bottom right of the video or use the link in the description to support this channel with a donation. You will also find links in the description to other series that explore very different themes without spoilers here. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and join us again for the next Clash on Debate Combats.